Over the past decade, student loan debt has skyrocketed in the U.S. By December 2020, 43 million Americans owed the government a collective $1.6 trillion. That's putting pressure on President-elect Joe Biden.
We know that in the 21st century, 12 years of schooling is not enough, and that young people are getting crushed by the burden of student debt.
Democrats want Biden to issue an executive order to forgive some loans if a bill can't get through Congress. But opponents say that would unfairly assist high-income earners while increasing the existing burden on taxpayers.
What's happening is a lot of people are not sending in payments to the education department. About a third of the $1.6 trillion that's on the books currently is not going to get repaid, which basically means taxpayers are going to have to cover that somehow.
So what will Joe Biden do? First, he wants to bring back a policy sought by congressional Democrats early in the pandemic.
The legislation passed by the Democratic House calls for immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It should be done immediately.
From there, Biden says he wants to start by revamping the existing forgiveness options offered by the federal government.
There are these programs in place called income-based repayment, and the first of these was actually passed under the Clinton administration. Bill Clinton actually liked the idea of having students actually pay a share of their income each month rather than a fixed dollar amount.
One example of these programs is called REPAY, which stands for Revised Pay as You Earn. In REPAY plans, anyone who's struggling to pay their student loan can set a new minimum payment that is 10% of their income over $25,000. If the borrower makes these payments on time for 20 to 25 years, the government will forgive the remaining balance of the loan.
Now keep in mind, this is 10% of your discretionary income, so for some people it might not make sense. If you're making a lot of money, and 10% actually might be higher than what your standard repayment is. So you kind of have to look at it and see if it makes sense. But anyone can do this. You're entitled to enroll in this program, and a lot of people have. Enrollment in this program has surged.
But there's a catch. The forgiven balance of the loan is counted as income on your taxes.
If you think about it, that tax bill can actually be really high. If it's, let's say you owe $100,000 at the end of that 20-year program, well, that's $100,000 of income. And so that could be thousands of dollars in a tax bill that you face right then and there at the end of your repayment plan.
Biden's proposal changes this program in a way that draws less money from borrowers. The minimum payment rate for these plans would be reduced from 10% to 5% of a borrower's income after their first $25,000 earned. And Biden wants to make it so that forgiven debt won't be taxed as income. Biden also wants to sweeten the terms of forgiveness for public sector workers like teachers, military personnel, and also employees of nonprofits. People in these career fields already have their debts forgiven tax-free after 10 years of public service, but Biden wants to relieve some of their debts on a shorter timeline. Biden has said that the current program isn't working as intended.
There is a program that exists now under the law that forgives student loans for being able to engaging in public service. I'm going to institute that fundamental change in that so it's able to be available to everyone that in fact is engaged. It's not being very well managed right now. So I'm going to do all of those things.
Some say that contractors are to blame for the management issues.
The contractors that the education department uses to deal with students who have student loans have gotten a lot of things wrong. So what you've seen is there have been a lot of instances of where people thought that they were on track to get forgiveness, and then they learn that they're not, and they maybe have to start all over. So this program has turned out to be a mess, and he wants to fix that.
Members of both political parties think that the federal student loan program needs an update.
One of the big differences right now is on the Democratic side, they're saying cancel student debt right now and then we'll worry about reforming the program. Republicans are saying, wait a minute, the first thing we need to do is fix this program to solve the underlying problems in the first place.
Any student loan debt that's forgiven is covered by taxpayers. Mr. Biden says he'll pay for expanded debt forgiveness by reversing parts of the tax cuts of 2017.
For a lot of his plans, he wants to, raise taxes on high earners and on corporations, corporate profits. So more broadly, he's talked about doing that.
Another issue is who exactly benefits from expanded loan forgiveness programs.
Most student debt is actually held by people who are in upper income households. The Brookings Institution shows that 60% of student debt, so more than half of the $1.6 trillion on the books, is held by people who are making $74,000 a year or more.
But if debts are forgiven, the smaller payouts given to lower income households are likely to have a bigger impact on that household's finances. In recent years, roughly 1 in 5 student loan borrowers fell behind on their payments, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That's a sign that many remain at risk of default on their student loan, which could impact their credit or even lead to garnished wages.
If you look at the number of people that have defaulted on their loans, it's almost the same as the number of people who lost their homes during the housing crash. This was almost unheard of, in the early 2000s, that there would be someone calling for canceling student debt. So it shows just how much of a middle-class anxiety this has become in just the past 10 years.
And Biden hopes to relieve that anxiety over the debts in his first term.